Welcome to the STARS program, seniors taking active roles in society. And now, here's your host, ANITA FINLEY.
This whole virus is really extraordinary. It is so sad, so worrisome, and you really are in a very important business right now because people haven't even thought about family members passing away. And tell me what's happened now. You're the district sales manager, of course, of Eternal Light Memorial Gardens and Beth Israel Memorial Chapel, and you're really smart. You've been doing this for a long time, I know. So tell me, what's changed in your world now?
Well, as odd as it may sound, I mean, for what we do to take care of our community, we've literally turned upside down. I mean, a lot's changed for us because we're a very a direct, belly to belly, if you will, people business, when we take care of our families and the need to communicate them intimately enough to make arrangements is always done in person. And this has taken that element almost completely away, with social safe distancing and trying to do as much as we can electronically, to avoid our employees from being affected with any hazards or risks. And of course, most importantly, our families coming in, as they travel from mainly New Jersey, New York area, where it is just an epidemic proportions up there. So, yeah, we've immediately had to dig our heels in and take great precautions, but at the same time still maintain that intimate connection with our families and serve them the best that we've always been able to do.
Yes, and it shows. You see, there are a lot of people who've been in this business, they don't have those skills. So now, even though, of course, it's much preferable to handhold and be there, and I know that's what you all do there, but you still can relate to them. You still can be kind and loving, and so many of us talk over the telephone anyway, and so now you're just rising to the occasion. So tell me what is happening now. Let's say you of course you are still doing you're doing funerals down here. How's that working?
We're doing our funerals here. We've discontinued using the chapel temporarily because it's a confined environment. So we're doing all our services graveside, which is an open air environment, and practicing social distancing there to keep the environment just as risk free as we possibly can, but accommodate families too.
Yeah, that's a whole new world. You wouldn't believe this, I guess, if 6 months ago, if anyone told you this. But let's just go back into this. So now, do you find more people are doing cremations because of this, or they still want the traditional funeral arrangements?
No, our Jewish faith families are still sticking with tradition. What's basically changed, if anything, as far as the pendulum changes, is that the families who had property to be buried, to go back north, if you will, now because of the lack of travel abilities, they're looking to select locally here and abandon the thought of burying their loved ones in any spaces that they had, in New York. And we're helping with gratuities and trying to offer a savings to leverage against costs they may have been out of pocket years ago from making those investments. We're just, we're doing everything we can mechanically. We can't remove the awful situation they're in, but we try and make it as seamless as possible.
Right. And what about you and your family, and how's all that working? Do you have a lot of people that you have to take care of and worry about?
We're good. I mean, I'm fortunate because most of my family is here in Florida. I was talking to a client yesterday, and I feel more, for my family clients because a lot of them have extended family in great quantities that are in the New York, New Jersey area. So I feel pretty lucky and safe being right here in Boynton Beach, with most of my family.
All right. So let me just tell everybody again, I'm talking to Mark BEYO, who is the District Sales Manager for Eternal Light Memorial Gardens and Beth Israel Memorial Chapel. And they actually are located in beautiful, beautiful place right there in Boynton Beach, right off, I think it's Military, isn't it?
We're off of 441. We're right on
441, sorry. Yep. I always get that mixed up. But you do have a beautiful place there. And so how long have you been doing this? I think I once asked you that, but how long?
February marked my 30th year.
Oh, know. I knew when I had you on my show. Remember?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah,
very,
I had
very
that picture. Yeah, great picture of you too. I had you, and I couldn't believe you looked so young for you to have been in this business for so long. But you love it. Otherwise, you'd never do it. I mean, people would say, "Why do you love this kind of a business? Isn't it morbid?" And what would you say?
Well, it's not. I mean, we definitely have our tougher days than others, but most of the time, it's to be able to serve families in a very unpredictable time in their lives, as far as not really having the knowledge and the know-how to move forward in an environment like this. It's very rewarding to be able to steer them seamlessly through this process and help with all the mechanics and the costs, if you will, so that we can make something that makes sense to them and personalize each and every service. That's the rewarding part, to help render closure to families.
Right, and now you've been in business long enough in a sense that you're probably seeing other family members. I mean, you started with maybe the elders, and then some of the younger people, the boomers, are unfortunately finding things that are happening to them.
Yep. Yeah, the first year of the boomers, there's 20 years of those, that generational gap. We're starting to see where it's getting busier, if you will, and I don't mean to say that so candidly, but because of the population in the baby boomer era as being so many, and then with this crisis that we have at hand, I mean, this is where pre-planning and making pre-arrangements becomes so much more important, because when you think about the calls that we get, be it during the day or the middle of the night, somebody's passed away, and the families that have been caught flat-footed and really need to see a funeral director, it can be 1 to 3 days before we have that opening to see the family, and that's every firm in our industry, not just ours right now. So the families who have pre-arrangements and make the same call, a lot of their processes and programs can be taken care of electronically and begin to move very seamlessly without the urge to have to see a funeral director within just hours, let alone wait 1 to 3 days because we're so congested with calls. So it's an eye-opener.
That's a very important aspect of it. I hadn't realized that either. So when someone calls, though, and you're not available because it's a new call, they never thought this was going to happen, they then have the torment, in a sense, to have to wait because you have other people who've planned this.
Right. We try and get them started with a conversation on the phone and begin some of the processes, but the family, because they have nothing in place, the anxiety just builds up. Human nature makes that happen, and they're dealing with that while waiting to see somebody face-to-face or actually have an hour's worth of conference time on a teleconference.
And so what does it take for someone, if they've decided now, they're listening to you and they said, okay, times are strange. We see that things can happen that we're not prepared for. What do I have to do? So why don't you run this by everyone listening?
Sure. It's and I'm glad you asked that. Right now, we've been working day and night to compromise, the ability to communicate what we're used to be, and that's in person to person. So we've developed a lot of electronic programs. First, it's as easy as it just starts with a phone call. Not every one of our clients, being in the generation that they're born, is very technical savvy. So, and we do have a lot of programs in place that can run even paperwork and agreements, through an electronic DocuSign process. But even for families who aren't that astute to that, as simple as a phone call, we can have a teleconference.
Well, wait, excuse me. Let's get that phone number right now. So is it the 561-737-7411? Is that the call you want people to make?
That's correct.
Let's do that again. Everyone, remember, this is Pencil Talk Radio, 561-737-7411. Okay, please continue.
So, just as simple as a phone call to get a conversation started. We can personalize some thoughts and answer questions that are particular to the family that's calling us. Families can see our location through virtual tours now that we can email directly to them. If a family still wants to come out, we're practicing social safe distancing tours, which means our advisor rides in the golf cart, the family stays in their car, and we tour them through the cemetery in certain areas of availability. And then when we get out at a section, we practice 8 to 10 feet distancing where we can still communicate, but nobody's right near each other. But we have so much that we can do via virtual tours, internet, electronically, We can do virtually everything if a family is capable of understanding that process without them coming here. But even if they don't, again, just a simple phone call. It's very easy just to have a conversation on the phone, and we can take so much doubt and uncertainty away from the family's minds if they just pick up the phone and give us a call.
Well, and then my curiosity is, when my mother years ago, many years ago, wanted me to participate in what she was choosing, fortunately she lived here and I could just go down to Miami where she was. But what happens when a person wants their family to participate but they live up north? How do you handle that?
We're doing live streaming to do funeral services now, so families that are still unable to travel, they can see it via Skype, or a lot of family members, we're allowing them to video or will video for the family and video live so that they can see it, anywhere in the country or anywhere in the world for that matter. So technology is a wonderful thing. My wife and I were speaking last night about, what a horrible circumstances of events we're up against right now. But if you could imagine this same thing happening 20 years ago or 30 years ago when we didn't have the technology we have, we would be frozen in this arena. It would be very, very difficult to accommodate families. So.
Yes, and do you believe now that the older generation are really getting on the Internet? And I know a lot of them are emailing. Do you feel that they're able to handle this?
Most are, because most of them are very, very comfortable with email. Their kids have brought them up to speed on that, and I think that's how they generally communicate at times too, via email or texting on the phone. Not there's a few, probably a good percentage, maybe a third that's about as far as they can go. But if they can email, we can still do everything electronically, even with that client. Again, and with a phone call, we can walk them through that whole process.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned this because we have had a website for many, many years, and it matches our magazine. But we're thinking of actually making our website even more powerful because we do believe that a lot of the boomers, even the seniors, people in their 70s, are really wanting, and there's so many exciting things happening. So where we had you on YouTube, for example, you did see that, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
You were very good.
Show.
Right. So, and we'll put this on YouTube also, but it's just that life has wrinkles, and this is a big wrinkle for everybody. So just changing the subject 1 second, tell me what you are finding in New York.
It's uncertain times. Too many differences of opinions in how people should be cautious and move about. I mean, you have so many people that are abiding by the rules and staying in and not going out of doors. They've quarantined themselves. But then if you have so much as 20% of that population that believes if they just put a mask on and gloves and go outside and mitigate with everybody, that's just not the way to do it. I mean, it's so hard to stay indoors and stay away from being outside and mingling amongst the public. But if we don't, this is just going to go on a lot longer than predicted. And it's just one of those tough things that we just have to adhere to and move forward with. I mean, it's not comfortable for anybody. I mean, our employees here internally, every employee that comes to work, and we have close to 100 employees between our 3 locations here.
Really? Wow.
In Boynton Beach. They all have to have their temperature taken, before they begin work, and they sign a form to ensure the safety to our families coming in and the safety to ourselves. We're just very, very cautious.
Good for you. That's fabulous. Yeah, you're very smart. You said some such good things, and I've holed up myself in my home, and my dog's loving it. He can't believe why I'm home so much. He loves it. But we changed our radio shows. We had them now. So I don't have to go in, and we don't take people like you in, because when you go to places like this, there's so many things where the infection could be lying around. So this has made it a lot easier, and I'm glad you were open for this because, if hopefully in a few months we'll get everything back the way it was. But I think people who are intelligent are realizing they're holding up in their homes. They're figuring out, people are getting things organized, but it's a good time now for all of you who've not made up your mind to make funeral arrangements. Look around you and say, wouldn't this be fine? You have the time. You can listen. You can hear. You don't have to go there. You can do this, as Mark said, you know, do it over the telephone, and they'll take all the stress away for you right now. I think it's a great thing that you're doing, Mark, really.
Thank you, Anita. That's very nice of you.
Yeah, well, it's, you know, it's as I started saying, it's not the thing that everybody wants to talk about, but as you so clearly said, you have to make the arrangements now, because if you don't, it's not going to be as easy, and it will probably cost you more. If you do it now, it's less money, I believe, right?
It is more money by doing it at the time, and it's never going to be as easy as it is before the need to have a conversation. Still an uncomfortable conversation, and I respect that. I mean, it's a tough conversation. But why wait until you're forced into the conversation and then you're alone? You don't have your spouse, your life partner to bounce ideas off of, and it's very, very difficult that way. Yeah.
Well, Mark, it's wonderful having you on the show. Thank you. I'm going to give this phone number one more time: 561-737-7411. Okay. Until I talk to you again, Mark. Thank you.
Been a pleasure, Anita. Thank you.
All right. Be safe. Bye.
You too. Bye.